Christina Universe Citizen presents New Era Religion, Episode 23, Part 1, April 5th, 2022. Our Individual Intuitions Evolving Consciousness. Amongst the various gradations of invisible layers of knowledge, throughout the disseminated content of information, in the universal communications process, we have much to learn that heretofore was not considered relevant, and especially concerning anticipating the manifestation of a true democracy. Invisible gradations usually are not mentioned, but it is a social rank, social station, social status, income level, and in the public domain, rank is not necessarily assigned, as it would be, in the specific armed forces or police forces as two example cases. Their relative position exists nonetheless, but rarely correlates to curiosity concerning topology and geometry. Now, though, we are learning the counting logic of topology that provides mathematics with expansion, but fail to provide a referential conceptuality of events-novents-events, which is in most refined synergetics that compares to the otherwise described three unique and irreducible aspects into which all visual experiences can be resolved as an essential comparative. The comparison correlates to the invalidity of plane geometry versus Synergetics, omnitopology, and conceptual thought. The human mind's metaphysical generalized conceptual field of systemic thought processes gathered synergetic-energetic information. This can be accredited to anticipatory design science's synergetic accounting. Logically, as more humans become aware of Synergetics' interpretation of general systems thinking, the conceptual environments of it, then more humans will refer their knowledge and developing theses to the constant relative abundance, which is expressed in various ways, as we can read in Synergetics 1007.20 through 0.22. To make most clearly the three irreducible aspects of all visual experience, it lists vertexes, faces, and edges as the unique dimensional abundance. It lists points, areas, and lines as structural identification. It lists joints, windows, and struts as synergetics topology. It lists crossing, openings, and trajectories as the more generalized conceptual. It lists events, non-events, and traceries as more refined, and fixes discontinuities and continuities closer related to events, novents, and event interrelationship in most refined synergetics. But what the reader might miss is that all of these topological characteristics refer to the polyhedron, a tetrahedron, universe's minimum structural system, its unit measure, the minimum thinkable set. Awareness of these topological characteristics gives a unique application to human inputs as contributions to an omnirational, omniconsiderate, omnidirectional, metaphysical, generalized conception field of thought with respect to the universal communications process. Presently, the internet platforms that facilitate the conversant communicator's content in agreement and disagreement typically refer to the contemporary predicaments without focused concern as to where the topology and geometry of it derived or where the interpretations can lead. As it turns out, the topology's three irreducible aspects of all visual experience go hand in hand with vectorial geometry and not plane geometry. Who would have thought such difference matters one way or the other? With so many dire conditions in the world that require conscionable attention, as news of those events seem to be on everyone's mind, one surprised of it. Where and when can we expect different results? The news reporting agencies as well as the governing bodies of law also require knowledge, but they are not compelled by any edict to technically and literally inform the observing public which geometry and topology is conceptually referred to for their published editions as edited authorities. Yet the intertransformation between the human mind's observations and reacting articulations sets the anticipatory next stage, phases, and emulating proclivities as the continuity of conscious life recurs, effecting the states of mind. The energy of life always occurs to us as events happen, without any correlating association to anyone or anything in particular, unless that person or thing may have disturbed the event-filled environment by some attention-getting performance. The behavior might seem to be predictable according to the accounting, the accountability as something equals something, and more comprehensively according to the referential field's omnidirectional epistemology. Reflecting for a moment when I use the word primitive, referring to the primitive tribes on Earth, some of whom is no longer in existence, and somehow modern humans can tend to emulate some of those behaviors. Primitive tribes articulate their primitive art. Modern humans, having to deal with more complicated, technologically evolved communication environments, when emulating the primitive communication, seems to be conveying a composition of imposed limits to the potential conscious evolution. So this word primitive is differently interpreted now as we begin to search for interrelationship clarification, recalling, in quotes, answer equal interrelationship, end quote, in a world of conflicting values and contradictions. That which humans conceptualize sizelessly without words is said to be primitive, and so must be inherently different from the words used to describe the experience. Whether we know of this inherent ability to conceptualize sizelessly, something in the sense detectable environment is observed as an articulation of it. But most of us tend not to have a deeply inquisitive need to formulate the conceptualizations, as did R. Buckminster Fuller and other science-minded, mathematically oriented humans, whose determination exceeds the greater populations of our evolution species, humans of a mind. You could conclude, as I do, that the mind of the scientifically demonstrable geniuses, explorations in the geometry of thinking, is different from the non-scientifically demonstrable mentality. Awareness as such ought to encourage hopeful answers without fear of self-discovery that is bound to happen the more intellect delves into what the genius discovered. In generalized principle, the discoveries cannot have been designed by the eternal omniscient mind, Yom, to suppress its integral self-testing. Imaginably, Yom self-testing requires experiential, experimental, physical proof of the entity's mind that is designed in principle to demonstrate the evolution and involution of its multi-dimensional environments. Apparently, some humans intuitively are attracted toward the most evolved genius mentality that is in an approximation to the degrees of curiosity as integral coded self-assurance correlating to truth. It may turn out that every human being has this curiosity as a coded aspect in its uniquely individual design integrity. But because its immediate environmental influence prevents the voluntary selection, it chooses close approximations that cannot substitute for what the genius geometer took years and years of his lifetime to experientially and experimentally discover. This was accomplished by measuring the mensurable and using the most accurate communication tools. Naturally, the entire process would include the words that are essential for describing the interrelating, interacting, intertransforming complexity that requires the genius's exquisite realizations of truth, love, beauty, symmetry, wisdom, and maximum economy. The TLBSWME is inherent and integral to Yom's design of its metaphysical physical nature in generalized principles. Our 21st century humanity really has no idea, until apprised of the cosmic intellectual integrity to which our evolution species, humans of the eternal omniscient mind, are entrusted as an experimental proficiency of our individual curiosities, integrally anticipatory, design, science, nature. Apparently, cosmic intellection is metaphysical, differentiated from the physical. Yet both are the truth of humans in scenario universe to explore. The eternally regenerative, most economical way of behaving, the way the system behaves, as a generalization model to which our individual consciousness evolution can refer. Logically, the most economical would not be the same as the least economical, with a discoverable, mensurable, and measurable difference correlative to the eternal omniscient mind's design of ordered relationships. Awareness of answer equal interrelationship invokes a new understanding of the truth of us in universe, coinciding with the more we individually discover as the truth of it becomes increasingly more familiar and loving in nature. This correlates to what we thus far intuitively understand about symmetry, the omnisymmetrical, one of the words in the TLBSWME acronym. By contrast to the PRJWBCS acronym, there is some more synergetically inspiring acronyms, the EISEGP, experiences, intuitions, speculations, experiments, discoveries, productions, and AAANOEA, an absolute accommodation network of energy articulation that can make more clearly to any one's individual longing to experience more truth.